All right. um, This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Franklin Township Land Use Board. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, and that a notice was published in the Huntington County Democrat and the Express Times, and the notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
United
States
States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
under God,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
God,
liberty and
liberty and
justice for all.
justice for all.
For all. Catherine, would you please call the roll?
Roger Soltis,
Here.
Ken Weiss,
Here.
Phil Corey,
Here.
Stephen Willis,
Here.
Mike Shabra, Dave Dallas, Alan Dilly, Eric Blue, Jennifer Fisher,
Here.
Jonathan A,
Here.
Lou Marrera.
All right, is there any old business? All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the October 13th, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, do we have, anybody have any comments or corrections, additions?
Well, Roger, I'll be able to approve everything after 7:47. So anything from 7:30 to 7:47, I can't approve that.
I just think it's worthy of noting that these are the longest minutes we've ever had.
What?
Catherine,
They ought to name a plane after that.
Catherine?
Yeah,
I have one, I guess it's a minor correction. It was on the 5th page, the croc application.
correct.
Um,
Comment, the Croc comment.
No, it's where I state at the end of the year that if an application is like stalled, then we will deny without prejudice.
Yep,
Okay, and all the applicant has to do is to come in. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, okay, I guess when they want to restart. Yeah, and it should say we will and then we will restart the process, not start it, because we already started it.
okay, I'll reword that.
Yeah,
Okay,
just change that one word and that's it.
okay,
Yeah, usually what ends up happening is if you dismiss with prejudice, if the applicant sends a letter within a reasonable period of time, you can reinstate the application.
okay.
Yeah, well, he wasn't sure, when he would be, well, that's right, you weren't here, but he wasn't sure how fast he'd be able to get back in, if he'd be able to make it in December or not, okay?
Yeah,
So-
I spoke to him a few days ago and he said he's still not sure. He's still working on it. So I told him just to let us know, so.
He was definitely taken aback by the things that were being requested. He was very polite about it, but he didn't think it was going to be such a big deal.
Well, I mean, the size of the building he wanted to put up was a little bit overboard too, so. But anyway, all I wanted to do was put him on notice that, basically we want to stop the clock to protect ourselves.
Yep.
Okay, so can I get a motion to accept that little change?
So moved.
All right, a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay.
You missed a
All
great
right.
meeting, Stephen. If that's the one we missed, you wanted to miss that. Well, Roger missed that also,
Yeah.
but
All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of bills. And the only bills that we have are two from Dolan and Dolan, one in the amount of 159.83 for the Contipodious application, and another for 109.95 general. Do I have a motion to approve payment?
So
Motion.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Catherine, you want to call the roll, please?
Roger Soltis,
Yes.
Ken Weiss,
Yes.
Phil Corey,
Yes,
Stephen Willis,
Yes.
Jennifer Fisher,
yes,
Jonathan A.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is hearing for the possible adoption of the 2019 Master Plan reexamination, 2021 amendment dated November 3rd, 2021. Phil, maybe you want to fill us in on this before we.
sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank the committee for changing the date from last week to this week, so we had enough time to properly notice. Even though in the municipal land use law, there really is, it's an ambiguous if we need to notice or not. I agreed with Roger and the committee council, Katrina, that let's err on the side of sending out the notices and adjusting the meeting dates to do that. So everything falls in line. I just have a quick thing that I asked both Darlene and Katrina, who's the township attorney, to put together. The township opted out before the August 22nd deadline, so we did not get stuck with the default rules of the cannabis that was passed in Trenton. Now the township needs to consider whether it wants to opt in for cannabis, and if so, for what. When we did the master plan reexamination, we set up a subcommittee. Roger set up a subcommittee. It was included Roger Soltis, Dave Dallas, Erica Amon, and myself. And we redid the master plan, and we came up to the committee in 2019 for approval. What I mean by the committee, the land use board. We handed in all our recommendations. We redid a couple of the zones. We expanded some of the business zones. And we purposely left cannabis ambiguous because we didn't want to technically rule everything out, but we don't want to, we didn't want to opt into everything. So that's the reason why we have to come back for the land use board for the adoption of the re-exam, the amendment. So the township committee would like to consider an ordinance to opt in for 3 of these 6 areas. It's cultivation and manufacturing, wholesale and distribution, and a micro business cultivation. And the township is not looking to allow any retail in the township. Assuming everyone is in agreement with these uses, this should allow be allowed in some form. Then the decision would be in what zones and what conditions these would be in. For example, the township would propose that the wholesale distribution would only be allowed in the commercial south zone, which is a small area down near Route 12. Cultivation and manufacturing would probably be allowed in a greater area. So the township is going to be able to put conditions on these uses. And so if we are allowed to grow cannabis on the AR7 zone, we could say that it's only allowed on properties over 20 acres in size, located on a state or county road, and would limit the places the facility could be located. We asked Darlene Green, who's the planner, to prepare a map of what lots meet these 2 conditions, so the committee and the board would have an idea of what properties would qualify if those were the conditions. She did create the map, but it really was misleading because she didn't have any information as to preserved property, property that wasn't going to be allowed. So for example, when she first sent the map, the school was an allowable place where you could grow and cultivate cannabis, because she was just going by the areas of properties over 20 acres. And so that made that made it look totally out of whack. So we had to give her a list of properties with the lot and block numbers. And I think, Catherine, you forwarded it on to her.
Yes, I did.
as to what areas was totally zoned out and basically not allowed. So she didn't have time because she just got it, I think, on Monday. And so she didn't have time to redo this. So the committee will have this map when it's available, when they are drafting their ordinance for the first reading, and they expect this to help possibly draft other conditions. For example, we might want to exclude properties that only have a flag lot to a county road. And this way we can have a bigger exclusion area, because a lot of properties in the township that are over 20 acres do have a flag lot, which is minimal size, a county road frontage or state road frontage. And even if it does meet the conditions of the property size, it might not allow for the driveway to be a proper size driveway for in and out. So that's basically it. I just wanted to address, and I just read something to Roger Thomas and before, and I just want to have everyone on the land use board realize that this is the re-exam is just a vision statement. It's setting the stage for an ordinance that's going to be drafted by the township committee. And the ordinance is regulatory with all the standards requirements that have to be met. And under the municipal land use law, the governing body has to send this ordinance, once we pass it, to the board, to the land use board for master plan consistency review and any comments. So this is not it's not solely that you're going to get an ordinance and it's going to be drafted. And so the land use board is still going to have some opportunity to review this and provide comments. So this board will have another bite at the apple after the first reading. And that's basically it. We don't want to include everything. We want to try and be specific in our areas. Just like, for example, Walmart is in the county north. We want to try and do something in the county south. So basically, it doesn't really affect the majority of the township. It only affects the outlying areas of the township. That's basically it. And I don't, Roger, Mr. Thomas, you have any other concerns or anything to say, or?
No, I think that you've stated that, as I've indicated to you prior to the meeting. I think that statement is absolutely correct, that this is a vision. The master plan itself is a vision. It's one that says this is where the town would like to go. You have to re-examine it every 10 years. You've done it in 2019. You have every right to do it within that 10-year period. And now you have done that through this committee, and I think that's appropriate. But again, it's a vision. Ultimately, in order to implement that vision, you then need to have an ordinance. That's what Phil was talking about in terms of the process. You will end up getting an opportunity to review that ordinance by way of a consistency review, as well as making comments with regard to whatever the ordinance may be. So I do agree with him 100% that this is not the last time you will see anything with regard to cannabis.
And Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, that even if an applicant does apply, they still have to apply to the land use board.
Yes.
For conditions to be met and any other thing. So it's not going to be, once the ordinance is sent, you're not going to see it. You're going to see every applicant that comes before this, for this.
Yes, and I am sure that what's going to end up happening is it's going to require, as part of the ordinance provisions, it's going to require that there will end up being, a site plan requirement, and that would then have it come before the land use board. Now, whether that is determined to be a minor site plan or a major site plan, it depends upon some of the conditions that may occur depending upon circumstances. But yes, there will always be an application that will come before this board.
Quick question for Roger, I presume.
Okay.
If you have 3 landowners who happen to have 7-acre lots, and they happen to be on a county road, can they just get together and make application as a group?
No.
Okay.
My understanding, again, well, that depends upon what the ordinance says. And I'm jumping the gun, as I shouldn't do. If the ordinance is going to say that you need to have a 20-acre lot, then 3 separate lots cannot be a 20-acre lot. If for some reason the 3 contiguous lot owners decide to merge their lots into, as your example suggests, a 21-acre lot, then yes, then they could come in jointly as a, maybe they would do it as a LLC or a partnership or something like that. Could they do it under that circumstance? Depending upon the conditions, the answer is yes. But could they do it independently and just say, hey, we want to get together, but we're going to keep our separate lots? The answer is no.
And they would need variances for having 3 homes, say, on 1 lot.
Might very well.
Yep. If there happen to be homes.
Yep, exactly.
I had a question. I know before I got the memo from Darlene in front of me, I think Phil said 3 out of the 6 are what we're looking at. Which 3 were they again?
It's cultivation,
technically four.
manufacturing, wholesale distribution, and there's something called a micro business cultivation.
And this would be medical and recreational?
Yes.
Yes, because I don't think we can rule that out. Can we, Roger?
Well, I was just
No.
looking at the list on this memo from Darlene, and she has it broken out into adult use, medical.
Yeah, the medical was already approved in 2010.
Right.
So
I didn't know if that was approved in the town though, right now.
I don't honestly know, but I'm sure that, well, I shouldn't say I'm sure. I would think that would be taken into account under the same regulations that are going to be considered for, let's call it adult use.
I have a question. Does any, the old Walmart store on Route 22, I think it's in White House.
I believe it's Reddington.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Reddington,
White House.
okay.
Yeah.
They turned that into some kind of facility. Was that a wholesale distribution place?
It was
I-
medical and they were growing some inside. And I don't know if they had like also a sales area or not, but I know someone that was working there.
Okay,
They were
Yeah.
growing.
One
Yeah,
of your
because-
friends.
yeah, because
Someone I've worked with in agriculture before.
In any event, I did understand that the Walmart had been converted, but I didn't know to the extent what it was. I don't know what Reddington ultimately really did.
yeah, well, the reason I'm asking is because I've heard that there's a major problem with the odor around that place, and
Yeah.
That is one of the issues. That's something I must say I didn't know until this discussion about cannabis and marijuana came up, which is why I have now come to learn that most of these facilities are likely to be indoors as opposed to outdoors, because they've ended up finding that when you end up growing it outdoors, the people in the area find that there's a rather pungent aroma that is not pleasant. So that's why you end up having to have them most of the time indoors, like a Walmart, which would have maybe 100,000 square feet. And then you need to end up having appropriate ventilation so that the people working inside don't, I don't want to say get asphyxiated, but it's a problem of smell. And there is a need for ventilation and proper ventilation inside, which is why I think most of these facilities will in fact be inside as opposed to outside.
We had a presentation at the committee, and then somebody was saying that if you have proper, I think in that, and I'm not really sure because I didn't go visit that site. You can put in some sort of ventilation system that has scrubbers that
Yes,
basically do something with the odors that come out that basically dissipate any type of smell. And the issue with that facility, from what I was told, and again, I'm only saying what I was told, that they didn't put in the proper scrubbers because it wasn't included in the ordinance to do something like that. Our ordinance is going to be strict and going to be strict, and to make sure that as far as Roger Soltis and I discussed, proper lighting, traffic, and odor. So basically we can control all that. And you can actually put that in the ordinance and also have some sort of a legal agreement that's signed, so that basically a performance bond, is that what it's called, Roger?
you'd probably end up having a developer's agreement to make sure that it's done properly.
Yes.
And so that, et cetera, just like you would do with a, major subdivision or something of that nature, or a major development of an office building, for example. Now that you don't get a lot of that in Franklin, but nonetheless, that would be the kind of mechanism you'd want to use.
And this is only for cannabis. It's not for hemp, because the hemp is already being grown in the township. In by certain farmers and also certain developers in the area. So
Okay.
There we go.
that was another one of the questions I had for Darlene, if there were any restrictions on hemp, because I know for a while that it was illegal to grow that. And what I understand, in addition to the, I guess the medical part of it, with the oils and whatnot, it's a great cash crop because they can make, a million different things from it. It's you know, it's a very good material to use, okay, for clothes, ropes, and, you know, a whole host of things. And, you know, so one of the things I asked Darlene, if you know, if you needed special permission or whatever for that, she wasn't sure about it, because I figured, you know, maybe we could, if that was the case, maybe we could roll that in here. But if you're saying that there's already people doing it, then I think that issue must have gone away then.
I can
Because hemp
tell
is
you
right
that-
to farm, I think, right? You know, because it is an agricultural product. The other thing I wanted to just clarify is there's certain restrictions we're going to be putting on the ordinance, but also there's also only a certain number of licenses that are going to be distributed and authorized by the state. So that's another hurdle so just because if we pass an ordinance that makes it allowable in the township, that doesn't mean that developer, if that's a proper term,
Well,
is
the
going to get
applicant,
authorized from the applicant, yeah, is going to be authorized or get a license from the state. So there's other hurdles they have to pass through.
Okay, so in other words, if, you know,
Sorry, Jen.
well, one of my concerns about the odor, you know, you're talking about some kind of businesses along, you know, county roads. Okay, now that was another question I asked Darlene, you know, if she had any, because, you know, when you talk about a manufacturing facility, I'm thinking of a factory. Okay, and, you know, so I asked her if she had any idea, you know, how big some of these the buildings or whatever may be required for this, and she said she had no idea. But what you're telling me now, even if we say, okay, you know, this is permitted, they would still have to get okay from a higher authority to do it.
they'd have to get, Phil's right, they have to get licenses from the state, and they're not going to be, I mean, I don't think they're unlimited from what I understand. And then you got to get approval. And again, because of what I have learned, because I didn't know anything about growing marijuana, it seems like it does have a pungent odor, and therefore a lot of these facilities are going to be indoors with the scrubbers and all the other stuff. I think Jennifer had something to say about the hemp, though.
Yeah, I can tell you about the hemp. That's been legal in New Jersey for a few years now. We grow it on the Snyder farm in a small plot, and you can smell it for miles. So outdoors is not, and that's just hemp. And there are permits you have to get just to grow hemp. So that's completely separate from all of this. So that's already, the state's handling that in their own way already. And Department of Agriculture is involved with all the measurements of the THC percentages and destroying the crop, which we just had to do last week. You have to pretty much burn it or destroy it and have like a videotape showing that you did that, or have a witness there to sign off. So that's a whole other issue, but the smell is real, and it gets on you. It gets on everything anything that's near it. And that's just a very small outside plot that we have. And apparently in some places that's enough to get people interested in breaking into farms and things too. So that's another
So
issue.
security, yeah, security.
Yeah.
So in other words, hemp is the same problem as marijuana. It has a similar type of,
It's the
odor.
same plant, basically. It's the THC content. Once you get over a certain percentage, actually hemp can convert into something that would be considered marijuana. So before it gets to that point, that's when you need to harvest it. So there's a whole network of like agricultural professionals that are tied into the state that go around and they test your crops, make sure it's below, I can't.
hasn't gone over those.
Yeah, 1.3% or something like that.
I'm getting an education here. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought they were two completely separate. I know they were in the same family, but I didn't realize that, you know, you can
Well, I
have.
guess even if they are slightly different, it's technically considered to be marijuana once the THC percentage gets high enough. And then as hemp, it has to be destroyed because you can't say it's hemp and it's actually marijuana. So
In any
All
event,
right.
I think that unless there's any other questions, I think what I should note, just for the record, that this is a public hearing. It's been noticed in accordance with the municipal land use law under section 13 of the municipal land use law. It is a public hearing. And I certainly don't want to cut off any questions by members of the board, but I did want to make sure that if there is anybody on this meeting from the public, they do understand that it is a public meeting properly noticed. And at some point when the questions for the board members are complete, it will be open to the public, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I guess, you know, the only concern I have with this is, you know, the manufacturing on small lots, you know, in a residential area, because, you know, this is so new. I don't think there's really much known about it, you know, if there could potentially be an odor problem, you know, how big facility you're gonna need to, you know, to do whatever you want to do if you're making food or, but
I think, Roger, the response that I think people would make, and I'm not here advocating one way or the other, but I think what people would say is that although you and I, for example, may not have a great deal of expertise, and I freely admit I do not, I think this has been a subject that's been around and been available, so to speak, in other states. And I know that California has dealt with this, and that's where I've learned that the smell became a problem out there. And that's why there has been that idea that a lot of these facilities really generally need to be indoors so that they can eliminate that odor. So I think that there is some fair amount of research that's been done in terms of this. I don't know it. I would like to think that when the ordinance is starting to be implemented, that research will be done, and therefore the things that need to be in that conditional use, if that's what's going to be, they will be included as proper conditions to assure that the negative impacts that you and I might be concerned about, or members of the board or members of the public would be concerned about, are taken into account based upon that prior research.
It was the interest of the committee. Everyone brings up the Walmart site, the old Walmart site in Reddington, and old White House. If we decide to do something, whether it be manufacturing or warehousing, we can always decide. We, the board, this board, and also the committee, and also in the ordinance, can decide the look of that building. It won't be a warehouse. It would have to be in the character of the area that it's in. For example, it would have to be almost like a barn style. It would have to be, if it's a 20-acre lot, no more than how many acres, or the size of the facility. Yeah, the square footage of the building, the look of the building, to make sure that the proper lighting, as Jen said, she brought up security. That was one of the issues also that I forgot about. Security of that, because you don't want to have anyone, you know, breaking into the facility. And so that's where we can put some sort of conditions on this, that they would have to be met, so that it passes all the hurdles. So it's not going to be like a one and done. It's not going to be like a shed. It's not going to be outdoors. It's going to be indoors, because also we have to get the police involved for security, and we can actually put in the agreement with that applicant some security measures. And I think, according to what Katrina told me, is that we can be even more stricter on this than we can, for example, in a warehouse or a type of facility, because this is regulated so heavily from the state.
I would agree.
all right.
This is not an Amazon warehouse. This is and even that probably has fairly heavy security. This is something that is even more valuable, so to speak, than that.
And from a municipal side, I'm sorry, Jen, from a municipal side, we're able to tax this to a portion. I think is it 2%?
I know you have the ability to impose a tax. I forget what the percentage is, but the municipality does have the ability to benefit from this, or else what's the point? Most municipalities wouldn't be bothered with it. It's a money generator.
On that point, I know that more work is going to be done, and these definitions aren't the be all and end all. Should something like that, where it is a potential condition regarding the taxing of the, I don't know if it's optional for townships to tax or not tax, but if we would do it, it seems like we would. Is it strengthened by putting it in even at the master plan level, one of the broad conditions?
Ken, I understand your point. I don't think it's necessary because it is statutory, and you as a municipality, as well as all the other municipalities in the state, have that right. So I think it's, you could certainly put it in, but I think it's sort of redundant. because you have that right no matter what.
Because if we have it in the master plan, it's going to be taxed, and say, for example, statutorily that changes, do we have to go back and change the master plan, Roger?
Well, I think that what you would say, if you're going to put it in at all, is to indicate that that the township would be taking advantage of the appropriate taxing mechanisms authorized by the state of New Jersey as they may be in effect at the time of an application or something of that nature.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to put it in, specifically because the statute reference right now, because it may change.
Yeah, and that's fine. The wording right now talks about potential conditions, meaning they're not mandatory. So, just from a guidance perspective of having another document that kind of reminds us all 20 or 30 years from now, that's an important consideration. I just offer that up.
I understand.
Kenny, when it comes,
You can't, you could add it. I don't think that it would, do violence to the language if you want. As I said, I think it is something that is a right under the statute, the enabling statute, and I don't think it's necessary, but if you felt more comfortable, feel free to add it as an additional bullet point, for example, if you want.
when it comes to money, I don't think anybody will be forgetting about it.
Probably right.
And you
Not
had something
now.
else, sir?
Yeah, certainly not now. 20, 30 years from now, or the different combinations of agreements of getting different people to come in to do different things. It's not a big deal. I just thought, like some of the ones that are there mentioned as potential conditions. My history has always been wherever you have a document, if you're always better off if you include more categories than not. Is it built online? But it just a point, not a big deal to me.
Jen, you had something to add, or?
I think you were talking about the Walmart, and everybody kind of says it was abandoned pretty much, but I think they actually started with that idea that if no one knows it's there and it looks run down, I think that's a really wrong approach. And I'm glad you said that we'd want like nicer looking buildings, because I guess they thought no one would notice it was there, but now everybody knows it's there. They literally left like weeds growing in the parking lots and did no improvements to the building because they thought that would help disguise it.
Leave it to Reddington to do something like that.
And another thing, this is just I read an article today actually, and I'm in general supporting the idea of like more agricultural crops and things, but I was reading about at the border of Oregon and California, they've had really big problems with people starting these huge farms to grow marijuana, and then the cartels getting involved in abuse of the workers. And I mean, it'd probably have to be a very big farm for that to start happening, but it's becoming like a major law enforcement problem. And they're like destroying the farms, and people are leasing the land, and then all of a sudden the person that was running the farm disappears and all the workers are left behind. But I mean, that's like large scale California type farming, but that's a consideration I didn't really think about before.
Yeah, there's always, it's sort of like, what gambling, the concerns about gambling back in 73 or 4, when it came into existence, there was a whole series of concerns about whether or not organized crime would get involved, and et cetera, which is why they established the Casino Gambling Commission, or whatever it's called. I suspect that there will probably be some type of I know that there is a commission that's going to authorize these licenses, and I assume that they're also going to be concerned about the very thing that you're talking about, organized crime getting involved. Clearly they have in the past, whether it's cartels or organized crime, whatever you want to call it, it's the same idea. I'm sure that's going to be something that's going to be of concern in regard to these applications, as well as enforcement and monitoring with regard to the Attorney General's office and law enforcement, et cetera. So.
I I think the other concern would have to be that, you know, that this wouldn't cause us to have to say double the size of our police department, you know? Because something like that could override the benefit that you think you're getting from it, you know?
Yeah, that, well, yeah, I understand your point. I don't know there's any answer to that right now.
And that's why, Roger, we're talking about any type of security would have to be at the expense of the applicant, and certain measures and conditions have to be met, you know.
All right, does anybody else have any, anything they want to add, any concerns, suggestions? Is there anybody, do we need a motion first before we open up to the public, Roger?
Not really. I think you have the right to do that. I don't think you have to have a motion.
All right, is
And I think you've just done that. I think that's what I heard.
There's no
And,
public here, though.
oh,
All right, so technically the records or the minutes should reflect that the meeting was open to the public, no public was present, and then the meeting was closed to the public.
okay, so unless anybody else has anything they want to add or discuss, then I'd entertain a motion on this.
And I think the motion would be to adopt the amendment to the 2019 master plan as outlined in the document prepared by, it's now
Dated.
Collier's Engineering, no longer Mazer.
And dated
Prepared
November.
by Darlene Green and dated November 3rd, 2021.
So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Roger, just one question. Does this push back our re-examination date, or are we still held, you know, based
You know,
on?
that's an interesting question. I would opt for the fact that it pushes it back, but I don't know that I have the answer. It's not, it is a very limited re-examination for a limited purpose. So I don't know that I have a specific answer off the top of my head, but I'll be happy to let you guys know after I do a little checking.
That would be great.
Good.
In the meantime, Catherine, keep on the time thing that you're running there, keep the same date for redoing the master plan, okay?
Yep.
Keep it flagged. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do you want to call the roll?
Yes, Roger Soltis,
Yes.
Ken Weiss,
yes.
Phil Corey,
Yes,
Stephen Willis,
Yes.
Mike Shabra,
Yes.
Jennifer Fisher,
Yes.
Jonathan A.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, well, Phil, you got what you need now, and I know you guys are going to do a good job on it, so.
well, I do appreciate that, and honestly, I do, like I said before, I appreciate the you know, the timeliness of this, and you know, the committee, Roger, under your tutelage, this land use board has really been a high performing. You know, there's really no issues that we've had. We've been up to date on the bills. We've had various meetings. I also brought to the township committee the fact is that we want to meet in person, and they're able to do that. The only thing I would request is there was someone there was COVID in the building, so we have a cleaning crew coming tomorrow to sanitize and do the proper cleaning like we did at the start of COVID, to make sure that that everything is sanitized, everything is clean. So, you know, if we can just keep that fluid as to meeting in person, I'm concerned about the safety of everyone and make sure everyone is up to date. As far as the new municipal building, I'll give you a quick update on that. The township committee hired a project manager to manage the project, and that's Mike Shabra. His group is going to be handling that, and they're meeting with various engineers, various architects. We're also on plan. We're meeting with the DOC, the Department of Corrections, to incorporate the police into that building also. So we're trying to consolidate everything into one building instead of having two buildings to run. With that said, also, we're going to be coming before this board because we're doing a perk. We just did a perk test in the two properties next to the current municipal building, because we're looking at merging those two lots, making it into a buildable lot, and then selling that, and that will offset and go into the coffers for offsetting the purchase of the municipal building. There was also another property on Oak Grove Road where we looked at the township owns, which is about 2 acres. And it's 1 acre, I think. It's 2 acres or 1 acre, Catherine, do you remember?
Wasn't that on Quakertown Road?
Quakertown
Yeah.
Road, yeah.
Sorry.
It's all wooded lot, but that's not a buildable lot because when we had the Colliers go out there, they determined that it's some wetlands and it wouldn't be proper to do that. So we didn't do anything with that building. So that property or that lot. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to divest the township of various lots that that are unnecessary to the township, that only cost us money to maintain for DPW, and we're going to try and get them back out of tax rolls to try and be efficient, and this way we don't have extraneous properties. With that said, we're also, the county made a commitment to purchase, I think the property, the new municipal building is 19 acres. We're looking to sell approximately 13 acres of that to the county for their trail. They agreed to purchase that, and that is also going to offset the purchase of the property. So we're really trying to move ahead with that. And also Mike Schaber and group, we also authorized them to meet with the energy companies, JCP&L and their providers, to try and see about upgrading any type of electric, HVAC through a state program where the state would pick up, I think, anywhere from 60 to 80% of the cost, and the township would be responsible for the remainder for the upgrades. So it's a win-win for everybody. And we also have some opportunity to have various other groups, whether it be the senior groups or the the environmental commission, to meet at the new municipal building. So we're looking to try and do all that.
Do they know when that bridge is going to be fixed?
We had a commitment that, and I have a call into the county. The Sydney Road Bridge, we were told it was going to be done anywhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that bridge was going to be completed and open, because I know it's a pain. I drive Sydney Road all the time, and it's a pain driving around 31 to go all the way down to Flemington or was it the Quaker, the Cherryville area. So that bridge is going to be open hopefully by Christmas. And they said the building over by Lower Lansdowne, that's going to be done by, I think, second quarter next year, because they have to order steel for that bridge, because it was really heavily damaged during Ida, the storm Ida, and some structurally underneath the bridge has to be repaired. So,
Yeah, I was thinking about holding this meeting in person in the municipal building, but I figured if a lot of people from the public happen to show up, we've been in trouble because the room is so small.
right.
And I know the other building isn't ready yet, so that's why I said we'll do this one online. Hopefully in the future, if we have a hearing or something, we can have it in the municipal building, unless we think it's going to be something that has potential of having a lot of people show up. Then we're just going to have to hold it online until we get access to the new building.
Right. Well, I asked the school, because the school board has been holding their meetings in person, but with an online, with a Zoom portion of it. But the only issue that they're doing is, if you want to ask a question, you have to be in person. And if you just want to observe and watch, you can just do it on Zoom, because there's no way to interact. I don't know if that's we're illegally able to do that on the land use board or even on the township committee. That's why we've been doing the Zoom meetings. So I don't know if Roger, Mr. Thomas, you have any?
There have been certainly hybrid meetings, but usually the hybrid meetings have a provision whereby if you do a Zoom, you can end up indicating through the presenter, which I guess in this case would be Catherine. She would then be in a position to observe anybody who has a question, and Zoom provides that opportunity, and she would then allow that person to get in. I don't think it would be meeting the standards that were put out by the DCA to say that if you have a question, you have to be in person. You can't participate through Zoom. But technically, there's the capability of doing that. The other thing that you have to be concerned about is of course, the distancing. I mean, the municipal building that you have now, as Roger said, it's rather small. I just went to a meeting at a town, which was actually not even a meeting. It was in anticipation of somebody who was retiring, and they had a get together, and they were going to do a presentation at the committee level. I found out 2 days later that one of the people that were at that meeting had COVID. So now the planning board meeting or the land use board meeting that was supposed to take place yesterday got canceled, and now everybody's now concerned, and so there is that concern that you have to be aware of.
What's happening to the current municipal building?
What do you mean? What's going to happen once we move?
Right.
Well, it depends upon when we're able to get the police in there. Mike, did you want to talk about what the plan is? I mean, because before Mike came on as a project manager, we were going to try and do this in 2 phases, Jen, to bring the administrative staff over there once we got the building all set up and constructed the way we want, bring the administrative staff there. But also the architect will draw up plans once for everything. And this way, once we're able to do that, then we can incorporate the police with all the approvals of the Department of Corrections and also the insurance company, our insurance company, to make sure that even though we might get some waivers from DOC, the insurance company still will have to provide some input on that. So I don't know if Mike, you want to quickly go over?
Yeah, I can add.
Right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
We're currently targeting for June to move in for at least the administration, meeting with architects and engineers with the goal of trying to get one unified third-party plan without any kind of variety for a particular contractor saying we need a certain heating amount or cooling amount, and verifying via engineer what's actually required. And the goal for architect is to actually properly lay out a municipal building that meets our needs, so we can actually design a space and complete it once and properly to whatever the codes are that need to be followed for the municipal side of things.
I guess I'm wondering your long-term plan though, once everybody's out of there, if the police are able to move out, like what's going to happen to the building?
But that's going to be up to future committees. I mean, if I basically, there's no need to keep that as a municipal building anymore unless you want to do something with that, because I think it's cost prohibitive to try and run 2 buildings, especially if that building's not going to be occupied. The new building is over 9,000 square feet, so there's enough room for files. You don't have to use that other building, but again, once the police move over there. And the reason why we were keeping that, it was on plan to keep that building, was because if the Department of Corrections said you have to bring everything up to current standard, that's going to be cost prohibitive, and that's why we were going to keep the police there. But now they agreed that if we are moving in the direction of being more in compliance than we currently are, because we're grandfathered in, they're going to give us some waivers and some concessions that makes it more feasible, because we are trying to move more in compliance.
And currently at this point, our goal is to create a space that we believe is adequate in conjunction with the police to house their needs in the future, so that we are creating one unified plan set. And then once we actually coordinate with Department of Corrections to figure out exactly what they are expecting, we can really hone in on that and create what's actually needed for them. Not trying to have that hold us up from proceeding on anything else, though.
So Jen, the plan, if it fell through the way I envision it, is possibly selling off that property as another site for a buildable lot. So this way we'll have 2 more sites that basically can go on the tax rolls to help provide, instead of having the municipal, DPW maintain a site that really is not necessary. Again, I'm trying to be fiscally conservative and responsible for the finances of the town. I can't see just spending money, because we got a great deal on that property. Everything's public knowledge. We bought the property for $750,000. And that's been the 19 acres plus the building. The county is giving us anywhere, I'm going to use round numbers, $100,000 for the property. So that really brings the purchase price of the building down to $650,000. If we're able to sell off the one property next to the municipal building, current municipal building, I'm just using round numbers again, for another $100,000, that brings up that lowers the price of the building, of purchase. So where else can you buy a 9,000 square foot building for $600,000? That's going to be used for our purposes, and it's not really taking anything out because that's already off the tax rolls because it was a religious site. No one else was looking for it, and if the county was looking to purchasing it, and that was if the county purchased it for their purposes as for parks and recreation, that would be off the tax rolls. And my philosophy was, how much property is the county going to take away from this township that's not going to be the benefit the residents of the township? And that's why I thought future thinking. And before we even entertained purchasing the building, I called several other people, like mayors of the town. I spoke to Roger Soltis. I spoke to Scott Bauman. I spoke to a couple of other mayors to just find out if my vision made sense for the municipal building. And everyone said, yes, if we can do this, that makes sense for the future of the township instead of just currently doing what we are. The other concern that I had is that, as we all know, our current municipal building is not handicap friendly, but disability friendly. What's the proper term? And so in order for us to really get anything run, we would have to put an elevator in to get to the second floor. And honestly, I think the cost of the elevator would be worth more than the current building we have.
Probably right.
So,
by the way, since I haven't been around that much, where's the new building going to be?
It's if you're coming from Sydney Road, you're coming from Clinton, you make the left onto Sydney Road to go down. It's Faith Chapel. So right where the current municipal building is, at that intersection, you would make the left, go underneath the overpass for the train trestle, and then go over the bridge that's currently out, and the building is on the left-hand side, right next to the Lower Lansdowne Trail, which is part of the county.
Okay.
And the county had interest in purchasing some of that property to enhance their trail.
Got
And
it.
so, and the reason why we agreed to sell the property is because our municipal staff, DPW, would not have to maintain that property. The county is going to maintain that property. I'm trying to work out something with the county, is that they will be able to put up a pavilion. Again, all this is pie in the sky. Put up a pavilion and maintain it. This way we can have something in the north side of the county, just like they have in the south part of the county, that is maintained by the county, that is for the residents of Franklin.
Thank you.
I mean, if that made sense, I hope what I'm trying to do is make sense for the residents of the municipality.
You have to admit, the current municipal building is way overdue for being
You think
replaced.
it's not adequate, Roger? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't think it was adequate 30 years ago. But Phil, when the first township meeting that I showed up for in that building, the committee meeting room is where the police department is right now. So it had a capacity, I think, to hold about 8 or 10 observers. And that was it. It was tiny. So, but yeah, it's time,
It's
Well,
charming. No,
I
when
think
people yell at you because they can't hear over the air conditioning.
Well, Mike can fix that so the air conditioning in a new building will be noisy too.
Yeah.
If you want, Jen, maybe we can do what the school did and move that building onto the municipal building property and try and maintain that. Like,
Eagle Scout project.
all right, is there any other business to come before the board?
I just wanted to wish everyone a happy and blessed Thanksgiving. It's coming up, and I guess our next meeting is on the
December 8th.
December 8th. Now, Roger, since this passed and everything else, what else needs to get done, or that just goes to the committee?
That's it. What I'll do is I'll prepare a resolution confirming what has been done. The committee really doesn't have anything to say about it. This is the land use board's responsibility, but the resolution and the document will go for informational purposes to the committee, so that therefore you guys know that this has been passed, and then you can start working on the ordinance.
Okay, there's no second reading that has to happen in this.
No,
Okay, okay,
we're done,
okay.
other than the adoption of the memorialization, which hopefully will be in December.
Yeah, we're, the meeting the night before Thanksgiving naturally is going to remain canceled. So our next meeting will be the second week in December. And Catherine, we do have somebody coming in that day, right?
Yes, we have a, yeah,
Informal.
kind of like an informal situation. St. Catherine's is looking to put up an accessory structure, about a 3,000 square foot building, to use for various events. And they just kind of wanted to get the feel of the board before they even begin anything, so. I've been speaking to their architect, so he's just going to prepare a minimal, a basic little kind of a sketch. They're going to fill out, the basic application for that and submit it to us, so. That's it.
You know what, that one has the potential of having people show up, so we're probably gonna have to do that one on,
I mean, when it goes to hearing, possibly, but as far as the informal, I mean, it's not going to be noticed, so I don't know. But
There's no D variance in this thing that you're talking about, is there?
there's no, there's a fee, there's an application fee of $100, but it's
No, I
been,
understand, but my concern is that you can do an informal so long as there's not a D variance, not a variance.
oh, correct. Yeah, there's no D variance. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
all right, so, our next meeting will be in December, and I want to thank everybody for participating in the meeting tonight. I know it wasn't a regular night, but we got it done in a timely manner to help out the township committee. And again, as Phil said, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see everybody in December again. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Everybody have a
Right.
good holiday. Take care, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
guys.
Bye all.
Stay safe.
Take care.
All right, take care.